Hello, everybody. My name is Sophie Walker. This is Kit Alexander. And yes, I'm in my car doing this Zoom. Kit is sat on his sofa having a lovely time. But I'm on the 4G, so I apologise if it dips in and out. But I think this is the week that we can gloat, isn't it, Kit? Fantasy golf picks. We sit here every single week going, pick him, pick him. But this was our week, wasn't it, US Open?
Absolutely. We've had a few winners before, Higo and whatnot. But yeah, well, you picked Rahm in your expert picks on the European Tour website. He went in both of our teams, of course. Oosthuizen we highlighted as well. Morikawa, who was tied fourth. Cantlay had a decent week as well. So all in all, I had money on Migliozzi as well each way at 300 to 1. So that did me very nicely, even though he wasn't in the fantasy team. But yeah, first, second, and fourth for our combined expert picks that we put out on the European Tour website and in our teams as we both went with those three players, I think.
I was just so pleased that the big boys turned up. I mean, the first two majors, it's like, where are you? And then kind of Saturday started to just simmer, didn't it? And then at Sunday at one point, I mean, Rory did it to us all again. He's up there. Brooks was up there. Bryson's up there. And then the John Rahms of the world. It was like, I mean, DJ kind of was around over the weekend, but didn't do much. But I don't know. I thought I thought, oh, will Tory bring out the best golfer? And I think it did, don't you?
You can't argue with the leaderboard. Like, you've listed the names there going into the back nine, and it was tight with those names there. I can't remember seeing a more stacked leaderboard heading into the back nine of a major championship in my living memory. So you can only really judge it on the tournament and the final round, the drama and the quality of the leaderboard that it produces, I think. And the bottom line is Torrey Pines produced a really, really good leaderboard and a fantastic winner who went out there and did it in dramatic style with that birdie finish. I mean, it was incredible. The fist pumps, and after what happened at the Memorial, you know what, the golfing gods were on John Rahm's side, quite rightly. He deserves it anyway, but especially having to be withdrawn with the 6-shot lead going into the final round of the Memorial, coming straight back and winning a US Open in that style. The humility that he handled that whole situation with, how good he was about having to get pulled out. You know what, he deserves that. I think there'll be everyone. I love Louis, who doesn't, great guy. Yeah. But I think everyone will be, you know what, that's the right result, that.
I love Louis. Like, his swing is just, it's just beautiful. And I don't know if you heard this on the commentary, but he's ranked number 1 in putting on the PGA Tour this year.
Yeah.
That was said a lot, wasn't it? But he's not, it's really hard for me to say he's not a winner, because I don't think I was either. But, you know, where he's in position, isn't he? And then, like, Rahm grabs it. Rahm goes, do you know what? I'm having a piece of this. And Louis, it was just, you saw it coming, didn't you? That was the thing with me. It was, you could just see it. It was almost like Louis would kind of hang on, but Rahm would go and grab it.
I almost felt a bit sorry for Louis because, okay, that drive on 17, that's not great, and it's at the worst time. But that's no worse a drive than John Rahm hit earlier on that par 5 when it went over the fence that they'd put up for the tournament, but not over the boundary fence OB. Everyone thought it was OB. He gets to take a free drop, ends up making a birdie on the hole. Louis was no worse a drive. It was just at the wrong time in the wrong place, and he didn't get away with it. And actually, I think Louis played really well. You know, some people might criticize that he didn't go for it in 2 at 18, but you know what, is that shot on if you're coming from the left-hand rough where it was lying? You could try, but at the end of the day, he laid up and he made his birdie on 18. The mistake wasn't on 18, the mistake was obviously on 17. So you can't be too critical of him for not going for the green from out of position there. Yeah. I just think he was a bit unlucky, and just someone, like you say, John Rahm seized that opportunity and took it. I don't think Louis gave it away. I thought he can be really proud, and he's finished second in, 5 majors, 5 times he's finished second in a major now, as well as winning the Open. A couple of those second place have been lost to playoffs at the Masters, one at the Open as well. Really underrated career. I would like to see him get another major, because I do think everything he's achieved probably deserves 2. when you look at his body of work over the last 15, 20 years.
Well, last week, sorry, with the US Open, the points were huge. So Simone Sardi, he actually won last week with 5,514. I mean, you captain Rahm and you've got over 3,500, or about 3,500 there and then. So it's very much, in fact, the guy that I've just given a golf lesson to, that was the last thing he said to me. He was like, right, what's your picks for this week? I listened to Kit, I went with Louis, I went with John Rahm. But he went, here you go, that wasn't the one, was it, Sophie? Obviously, I had Rose as well. Like, there was a couple of real shocks in there for me, like Webb Simpson. I know he's not, oh, my dad's calling. I know he's not in our fantasy, but I just couldn't see that coming. Like, normally at a US Open, it looks hard, and you go, I can totally understand why that guy's 6 over after 7 or something like that. But I didn't think Torrey looked really hard. However, -6-1. It was a weird one, wasn't it? You know, the greens didn't look like they burnt out. They didn't look like massive runoffs. But you got that US Open type of score. But yeah, you had to go with the big guns, which we all did at the Masters, and then we started to shy away. So he's done well. But this week we move on to Germany, don't we? So it's the BMW International Open in Munich. Unbelievable city. Like, used to love playing in Munich. Couple of surprises coming over from America, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, Louis Oosthuizen's jumping on a plane and coming over. Victor Hovland, obviously we saw he had a bit of an issue with his eye in the bunker and the sand and had to withdraw. He was sort of missing the cut anyway, but he was practicing on the range over the weekend, looking like he was fine and got it sorted. He's jumping on a plane and coming over as well. So Sergio Garcia coming and playing in it, Martin Keimer, and a few other guys heading back, Bernd Wiesberger. So you've got an interesting mix of guys who obviously played last week in the US Open and are coming back from the west of America in California over to Europe, and then guys who haven't played for a week or two because they're European based and didn't get into the US Open. So, you know, they've either potentially a little bit of rust or a very long trip. So it's going to be an interesting dynamic. And yeah, those 3 or 4 big names that really stand out for you this week.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously you've said about Louis coming off 2 seconds in the majors, but when you scroll down the entry list, he's not, you have to literally scroll down it, don't you? Because he's an Open champion, and he's not won on tour, on the European tour, for so long, because he doesn't, I mean, he never plays here. I'm a bit like, I mean, BMWs don't make tractors, so why is Louis coming? Anyway, he is, which is massive. And I think with somebody that swings it kind of as good as him, you've got to just put him in. He does have a little bit of trouble with his back sometimes, so the traveling all the way over, that'll be an interesting one to see. I think the weather's reasonably warm in Munich, so that should help him. But I mean, you've got to put him in, haven't you? And you've got to put Hovland, would you say, after the eye injury, you're still putting Hovland in?
They're just class. You've got to stick them straight in, even with the travel, like you say, and even Hovland, a little bit of an eye issue. In this field, they've got to go in. The weather is going to be nice. I think it's been over 30 in Munich the last sort of week or two. We've had a nice little heat wave. So, and the course itself is Munchen Eichenried. The event is held there in odd years since 2011. So the even years it goes to, I think it's Gut Larchenow, which is over Cologne way. But Munich 2011, 13, 15, 17 and 19. It's been held at this course if you're looking for a bit of previous form. Par 72, stock, 4 par 5s, 4 par 3s, 14 par 4s, 7,283 yards. So a little bit of length to it, but I don't think bombing it's going to be essential. Reasonably flat, tree lined, water in play on 10 holes. It's pretty much your sort of archetypal Central European big championship American style golf course that have sprung up a lot in the 90s and early 2000s in continental Europe. Historically, since 2011, the winning score has been between -15 and -18. So that tells you there are going to be birdie and eagle opportunities. It's not an absolute birdie fest, but you're going to need to make your fair share to be up there. Apart from those big names that we've mentioned, bearing in mind that's what the course is going to do, who are you looking towards for the rest of your team to suit that?
Yeah, I mean, I like I do like Wiesberger whenever he comes back to Europe. I think he's got Ryder Cup on his mind. And this is also what we've got to think. Some people are going to sink and swim in this situation. Ryder Cup, September. You've got to start. If you're coming over for this, it's probably why Hovland might be coming over, just to tick a few European Tour events off. Some people kind of shy away, don't they? And they drop off and they barely make the team, or they miss out on the team. I think Wiesberger is a lot more mature than obviously his years now. He's been around for a long time. He's been there or thereabouts, which is why I'm going to put Wiesberger in, because he's not really let me down on anything else. And same with Sergio. Like when Sergio Garcia comes back to Europe, I mean, he's played twice in European Tour this year, just strict European Tour. He's finished 15th both times. He's not had a great run in America. He's one of those that was like, oh, what do we do? Do we put him in because he's not done well in America? He's had some miscuts. But for me, I think you do. This course is just a ball striker's golf course. It's not tricked up on the greens. And he's the best out there with irons, probably in the field this week. So that's why I'm going to going in with him. Now, Burmeister was one, which I think a lot of us might go, hang on a minute, I'm going to have a bit of him. And I was looking at his stats. His stats are off the chart. I mean, he smashes it in strokes gained. He's the second longest off the tee. He's been home. Now, I listened to that. I don't know if you've heard of them. Filthy Lip Out. Have you heard of that, Kit?
Yeah, I've heard it's all right. Yeah,
this podcast that these two lads do from down south.
These two absolute jokers. Yeah, don't know what they're talking about.
And anyway, your podcast, you were interviewing Dean, and I didn't realise the trouble of being a South African trying to get over here. Do you want to explain to everybody what these South Africans have to do to get back to Europe?
Well, they've had a bit of a nightmare. Their restrictions are sort of even more limited. They're often, when coming back into Europe, having to isolate for 10 days, whatever country they're in, before they can play. So it just makes it that much more difficult. Dean was telling us that some players just haven't even bothered playing. Like Thomas Aiken, who's in the field this week, I think is one of them. He just played in the US Open, missed the cut, got through qualifying in America to do that. But we've not seen him on the European Tour for quite a few months now. And it's difficult for everyone, but I think for the South Africans, because there's that extra bit of self-isolation and quarantining wherever they have to go before they can even tee it up, before they can practice, it's making it really, really difficult. Burmeister obviously was in great form prior to this little break he's had, but he's now not teed it up for 2 or 3 weeks, having been back home. He said he was going to Italy last week to do his sort of quarantine, hopefully have his family with him, which will be a big help as well. Because obviously for a lot of guys, if you're not in a position to be traveling with your family, if you've got children in school, that's been an issue as well. So he's got his family with him, I believe. He's been in Italy preparing the last week or so, and then he'll be obviously heading to Germany early this week. But it's just another factor. You don't quite know how that extra difficulty of the travel and then having to quarantine is going to affect him.
Definitely, stats wise, you go down, you're like, get him in right away. But then that background information just makes me go, oh, hang on a minute. And like, even like Anton Rosner, like, what are you thinking about him? He's gone off the boil a bit, but has he, because he's been playing in America? Is it that one where they dangle the carrot and do they go too soon? I mean, Higo worked out really well for him. Guido, like you were saying, like that was amazing what he did at the US Open. Some go a bit early, don't they? And then it peters out. What are you thinking about Rosner?
I was all over Rosner start of the year, as you know, loved him. He was playing fantastically, but his swing has just gone off a bit. I remember that one of the events over in Tenerife, I really fancied him and he got himself into contention and then his swing just absolutely disappeared. He just couldn't hit the planet off the tee for whatever reason. I'm still a bit cautious about him. I don't think I've seen enough from him to show that his form's back. I really like him. I think he's a great player and he'll go on and win more on the European Tour. For me this week, I'm not keen on him. Garcia, you mentioned, I think you've got it back. He missed 3 cuts in America and then went 20th, 19th the last couple of weeks that he's played over there, of course, including a decent week at the US Open. Got really unlucky on that pitch that he hit the pin and came straight back to his feet. I think you know, as well as costing him a shot or two, that took the wind out of the sails a bit. But I think we've seen enough form-wise from him the last couple of weeks, and the fact that in his previous 4 visits to this golf course in Germany, he's finished 7th and 2nd twice. So I think you've got to lean on him. I'm not so bullish about Wiesberger. I find him a really difficult player to sort of to place, if you like, and to work out, because he was doing nothing coming into the Made in Denmark, really, and then looked absolutely sublime and you know, walked it in the end, in reality. And then he's not really done anything since, but then that's been in America. Now he comes back to Europe. I don't know what it is. I just never, you know, when you've got players like that and you're like, oh, there's some you tend to give the benefit of the doubt to. For me, for whatever reason, Wiesberger goes the other way a bit, and I need to see more from him before I put him in. So for my other 3 spots, aside from Hovland, Garcia, Oosthuizen, the big names, I've probably got it down to 4 guys who I'm considering for those spots, and that's Alex Bjork, Sam Horsfield, Ryan Fox, and Matthias Schwab. So all players in pretty decent form. Bjork has had a couple of top 10s in his last 3 starts. Looks really steady. Horsfield has cooled a little bit in the last few weeks, but still a class act, and his stats are great this season. Ryan Fox, I liked him in Scandinavia. He came back, had a reasonable result. Schwab just churning out the top 10s as ever. And he did finish 3rd here in his previous appearance at this golf course in Munich as well. So there's a little bit of course form from Schwab. So I'm looking for 3 of those 4 for my final 3 spots, I think.
Yeah, I'm looking at Ollison. He's done well here in the past. I don't know if he's enough to get in. I know I did message you saying he's going to be my one that's in, because me and Kit do 3 picks each for the European Tour article. Like, he started off hot, didn't he? And then he slowed down a bit, but he has done well here in the past, which is making me look at him. But there's just a couple that you just think, hang on a minute, like, Padraig Harrington's back. Now, he's just doing well this year, isn't he? He's one of them that it's like, if you look at his stats, he came 6th in Dubai, obviously 4th at the PGA. Whenever he does tee it up on the European Tour, he goes all right. So that's somebody just to maybe just have a little think about. I think Sam Horsfield is one that I really do like. But what do you reckon about the past winners this year, like Catlin, Caldwell? I mean, we saw Bland, didn't we, win and then back it up, and we didn't put him in the team. What about Caldwell?
Yeah. Caldwell, I love Johnny Caldwell. Know him really well from his Euro Pro Tour days. Great lad. It was a huge win for him in Scandinavia. I don't know that this course really suits him as well. I think there may be a bit of a hangover. He's had some really good celebrations back over in Ireland. He's been taking the trophy around local clubs and places he's got connections. I think Scandinavia being a sort of linksy style, the wind getting up, I think really suited him. I'm not sure this bigger inland type flat European venue is quite up his street. So I'd be a bit cautious on him. Catlin, he's been really, really, you can't argue with his form on the European Tour and his results. Obviously, he's knocked off those couple of wins this year. Again, I think he's better on more difficult courses and trickier. You know, if you're looking for a winning total between 6 and 12, 6 and 14, I think that's right in John Catlin's wheelhouse. I think when it becomes a bit more of a birdie and an eagle fest, for me, he doesn't line up as well on that kind of course.
Fair enough. There's a lot of big net, like Thomas Peters is playing. Like, it's a really good field, isn't it? I think Horsfield's definitely one in there, but Thomas Peters will make it into a few teams. So will Andy Sullivan. You know, Schwab is your steady Eddie, isn't he? It's one of them that if you don't pick him and then he wins, you're like, do you know what? I've had him in my team, other than the major, 75% of the time, and then he's going to win when he's not in our team, isn't he? So
you
I
can't.
think most people
that
go with
chance,
those
you can't
3.
take the chance that you backed him so much. You don't want it, so you just keep picking him. And I mean, are there any real outside names who people might not even be considering, might not even go on the long list that you like the look of?
Let's have a look.
So while you're having a little look, I'm
Yeah,
going to
go
chuck
on,
a
have a
couple
look.
of names. Probably
Yeah.
3. Darren Fickhart. So we mentioned him
Yeah.
ahead of Scandinavia. He was in my team and he had a decent week. He was up there and then fell away, but I still like him. And 2, perhaps even more unlikely names that I want to chuck out there are Will Besseling, the Dutchman,
Yeah.
who's been quietly going along, knocking out the top 25s, top 20s. I think on his day, he can get himself into contention. And Tapio Pulkkinen, the Finn, hits it a decent length. And again, quietly simmering decent form. I think if you're looking for a long odds each way bet or just a little bit of a left field pick for your fantasy team, those are sort of 3 names I'd have a little look at that you might not have necessarily been considering.
Yeah. And we had a bit of him, like Lewis de Jager, didn't we? Lewis de Jager. We had him last. Yeah, he's one that he's got nice form and big golf courses. He's done all right. He's been getting better and better on the European tour. But you don't know where the South Africans have been. That's the only trouble, isn't it? They've all tried to get home and get back. I'm going to start steering away from the South Africans this time of year. Obviously, Lou is a bit different because he's world class. But I think this is where we start looking for a bit more European presence, and I'm going to edge more that way, I think. So I'm going to look more European based on mine. So like you said, I'm going to go Garcia, Hovland, Louis Oosthuizen. Then I'm going to go Horsfield, Ollison, and then it's between Wiesberger and don't know. It's just a couple in there. There's a lot that could go in those last 2 spots. Really good.
Yeah.
You probably play it safe with Schwab. But yeah, interesting. Like
Who's captain?
Lee, Fox, Peters,
Yeah.
all those find your way into the team if you're like, oh wow, Louis Oosthuizen's playing, Sergio Garcia's playing, Vic Topman's playing. Like those 3 stand out so much that normally you've almost got 6 to pick from, but you haven't anymore. I honestly think you've got 3 to pick from. That's my mind.
Yeah, I think it's hard to leave out any of those 3, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you're looking at then who are the additional 3. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who's your captain though? Of those probably going to be coming from those big 3, most people's captains. Where are you?
Do you know what? I'm going to edge more towards. Louis is just unbelievably on fire, but you know when you're like,
I'm edging towards Louis. I've got to say I think
he's so okay. Right, you might go. I'm going to go Victor Hovland. I like him a lot. I like Hovland a lot, and I just think, it'd be nice for him to get a win over here, wouldn't it? He's not going to come over here to make up numbers. He's going to be a world player now. So I'm going to go Hovland. I'm going to probably do a little bit of research to see how his eye is on his Instagram.
Oh yeah, definitely. I think, and yeah, keep an eye on Louis Oosthuizen's social media and anything coming out from there. Just to, like you say, the back issue. Sometimes it's a long old flight or a couple of flights to get over here. Anytime you've got the week after a major, it's always worth having one final check Wednesday evening before absolutely finalising your team and forgetting about it for the week, or then have a little look, because you do get the odd little late withdrawal or just a niggle perhaps. So especially with the question mark.
I might have a quick look at Louis' world ranking after, or how he plays actually after a major, because you've got certain players that play really well after majors. So Stuart Sink is incredible the week after a major, and others aren't so much. So what you can do is just go on the world rankings and check what they do after a major tournament. First of all, if they play it. So, so after the PGA Championships, his next result was tied 18th at Memorial, which is, not too bad. After the Masters, he played Valspar and he tied 8th. But I don't think those are directly after. Like Louis doesn't normally play the week after events. Yeah. So the Masters, the following week, he played the RSM Classic, missed the cut. That was last year. There's stuff like that you might just want to. That's something that I might even look into a tad more, just to see what's going on, because he's not a guy that plays loads of golf, Louis Oosthuizen.
Absolutely, very true, very true.
Yeah. So he's not my captain. That's why I'm going Sergio.
You've gone Hovland. I'm going to stick with Louis. I think as captain. Yeah.
I reckon it's going to be a good week. I'm looking forward to this. I like Germany. So. I don't know what the crowds are going to be like, but I do like it when they go to the BMW. They get players. We're precious when we get looked after. We tend to enjoy it, and you always just get looked after in Munich. Nice BMW cars, city's great. Let's hope that they're allowed a little bit more out of the bubble. I know on the women's tour this week in Czech Republic, things are a little bit more open. So that's going to be nice for them. So, absolutely. Right. Do you reckon that's everything, Kit? We've waffled on enough.
I think so. I think we've covered all the bases
about the wins and stuff. So,
yeah.
Hopefully,
we've picked another winner in there somewhere like last week.
Yeah, absolutely. There's the gloating that goes on when that happens. It's just like, yeah, it's pretty good. But it was an easier one last week. I thought Ram was very much the favourite. But you don't often get the favourite winning, so that was nice. I'm sure the bookies were happy with that as well. So I'm sure everybody did pretty well last week, and it's back to the European tour and getting a bit more research. So Thursday start, everybody get research in. But like Kit said, check entry lists because you're flying over from San Diego to Germany. Stuff gets a lot stricter as well in Europe with COVID tests. It's a lot more relaxed. Although San Diego, California, actually is probably the most strict state. But just be careful because it's easy for people to get COVID regulations or not get let into the country. Times are changing, so we don't want everybody to get mad with it all, do we, Kit?
Definitely not.
Right then, speak to you all soon. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment below. This guy's well good at getting back to you. This girl's not the best.